If your stomach drops the second you see a typing indicator flash on your screen, your body already knows what your mind hasn't named yet. The exhaustion you feel at the end of the day isn't from doing the work. It is the biological cost of surviving a psychological operation. You think you just struggle to handle a fast-paced environment. You tell yourself that you need better time management, or another coffee, or a more optimized morning routine. But your nervous system is completely hijacked. That sudden tightness in your chest when your phone vibrates is not stress. It is a biological alert system warning you that an extraction loop has just been activated. The modern workplace relies on localized, low-grade panic to bypass your ability to negotiate boundaries. They need you reacting, not thinking. Because the moment you pause to think, the compliance breaks. Look at the architecture of your digital workspace. The constant barrage of red notification dots. The artificial urgency of a direct message. The calendar invites that slide into your afternoon with zero context. We are told this is simply the nature of the grind, the inevitable friction of doing business in a connected world. You log off at 6, but the adrenaline stays in your bloodstream until midnight. Your manager calls it an agile workflow. Your body registers it as a continuous threat state. Every ping demands a micro-compliance, a quick reply, a brief status update, a fast sync to align on deliverables. These requests seem harmless in isolation, but they are administered sequentially, dozens of times a day, slowly eroding your cognitive baseline. You are no longer managing projects. You are managing a localized form of information warfare. When your manager drops a 15-minute hold onto your schedule labeled Quick Sync, notice exactly what happens in your physiology. Your breathing shifts to your upper chest. Your peripheral vision narrows. You begin rapidly scanning your recent output, searching for the error, bracing for an impact you cannot even identify. This is not a professional preparing for a meeting. This is a prey animal anticipating a predator, and that reaction is entirely by design. They do not want you walking into that digital room feeling grounded or sovereign. They want you off balance. They want you experiencing cognitive dissonance, caught between the friendly corporate language and the underlying threat to your livelihood. By keeping you in a state of perpetual hypervigilance, they guarantee that you will agree to whatever new mandate is handed down, simply to escape the discomfort of the interaction. The natural defense mechanism is to rationalize this chaos. You assume your company is simply disorganized. You tell yourself that your manager is understaffed, overwhelmed, and fundamentally bad at planning. It is comforting to believe that the last-minute emergencies and midnight emails are just structural flaws of a scaling business. If it is just incompetence, then perhaps it will eventually be fixed. Perhaps next quarter, when the new hires start, the pressure will lift. You cling to the idea that this is a temporary dysfunction. You convince yourself that the people above you are trying their best to build a functional system, and they just happen to be failing. Believing this lie is the only way you can drag yourself back to the keyboard every morning. But that belief is the exact vulnerability the machine requires to keep you seated. The chaos is not a failure of management. It is a deliberate behavioral program. Systemic exploitation requires unpredictability to function effectively. If your workflow was entirely predictable, you could set rigid boundaries. You could allocate your energy evenly. You could clock out with your dignity intact. Manufactured urgency destroys that possibility. It is an operant conditioning protocol installed by your workplace to keep you guessing. When leadership relies on these artificial emergencies, they are gaslighting you into accepting extraction as a standard business practice. They train you to associate relief with immediate compliance. You answer the message in seconds because the anxiety of leaving it unread is physically intolerable. You are being trained, much like a lab rat pressing a lever for a pellet, except the reward is just the temporary cessation of anxiety. This conditioning was brutal enough when it was managed by human beings, but the protocol has recently been upgraded. The 9 to 5 is no longer just about the hours you are physically present, or the raw output you generate. New algorithmic productivity tools are monitoring the exact cadence of your compliance. The machine is currently optimizing this extraction loop to run faster than human cognition. Software is tracking your keystrokes, your mouse movement, and most importantly, your response times. Automated HR dashboards aggregate your latency. If you wait 20 minutes to answer a message on a Tuesday, that data point is logged against your internal reliability score. They are turning your nervous system's reaction time into a measurable KPI. Hesitation is punished. Boundaries are flagged as a lack of engagement. The software does not care if you are exhausted. It only reads your latency. This data is weaponized during your next performance review. Your manager will sit across from you, armed with metrics generated by a surveillance apparatus you never consented to. They will not explicitly mention your response times. Instead, they will use corporate euphemisms. They will say you need to be more agile, or that they need to see more ownership and urgency in your communication. They are penalizing your biology for failing to keep pace with a digital algorithm. This is how the operant conditioning loop is formalized and etched into your employment record. If you do not install a defensive countermeasure right now, these automated tools will simply optimize your exhaustion until your physical output finally collapses. Once you reach that point, you will be quietly managed out and replaced by the next unconditioned recruit. You cannot survive this by working harder. You cannot reason with an automated extraction loop. You cannot politely ask a behavioral program to respect your personal boundaries. The only way to break the conditioning is to intentionally disrupt the feedback mechanism. You must weaponize latency. You must introduce a strict mechanical delay in all internal communications to reclaim your cognitive baseline. I call this the triage pause. Starting tomorrow morning, you will implement a mandatory 15-minute delay before responding to any internal trigger. When the message arrives, you will read it, process it, and then physically step away from the keyboard. You will let the digital silence stretch. You will feel the panic rising in your chest, the intense urge to comply immediately, and you will sit with it. You are retraining both your manager's algorithmic expectations and your own deeply compromised nervous system. The first few times you execute the triage pause, your body will scream that you are in danger. Your conditioned mind will tell you that you are about to be fired. Let the fear wash over you and watch the clock. After 15 minutes, you reply with a measured, emotionless response. The sky will not fall. The business will not collapse. What will happen is a subtle shift in the localized power dynamic. You are taking back the space between stimulus and response. You are proving to your own biology that the manufactured urgency is entirely artificial. Once you break the micro-compliance loop, you stop being a reactive asset and start becoming a sovereign operator. The machine relies on your panic to grease its gears. Deny it that friction and the entire apparatus loses its grip on your reality. Fall. The building will not burn down. When leadership relies on these manufactured emergencies, they are gaslighting you into accepting an artificial extraction loop as a standard business practice. You have been conditioned to believe that your adrenaline spikes are necessary for the company's survival. They are completely irrelevant to it. The panic is simply the grease on the gears of systemic exploitation. Your manager uses the word urgent to bypass your logical brain, ensuring your cognitive dissonance never has time to settle into a clear realization of how little you are actually paid for your sustained panic. They do not want your best work. They want your fastest micro-compliance. Watch your inbox when you enforce this latency. Notice how many sudden emergencies resolve themselves within that 15-minute window. The urgency was a phantom. The 9-to-5 grind is no longer just about hours clocked at a physical desk. The machine is actively monitoring the exact millisecond between a notification delivery and your keystroke response. Algorithmic productivity software is running quietly in the background of your company laptop right now, tracking your digital footprint. It measures your value by your reaction speed, actively punishing any sign of hesitation. Every time you drop a deep work task to answer a generic message within 30 seconds, you feed the algorithm exactly what it wants. You are training the software to expect an increasingly inhuman baseline of daily availability. This is operant conditioning enforced by a server rack. Your nervous system is absorbing the massive hidden cost of this digital surveillance. You sit at your kitchen table at 8 at night, a phantom buzzing in your pocket. If you do not install a defensive countermeasure today, automated HR tools will optimize your exhaustion until your output drops and you are inevitably replaced. These corporate dashboards do not measure human endurance. They only measure data anomalies. When your next performance review arrives, The algorithms will flag your biological burnout as a sudden drop in engagement metrics. Your manager will pull up a spreadsheet showing a sharp decline in your response times over the last quarter. You will be penalized for finally reaching the hard physical limit of your nervous system. The machine extracts your premium cognitive years, grinds down your adrenal glands with constant alerts, and then flags you for a performance improvement plan the moment your biological hardware begins to fail. It is a one-way consumption model designed to discard you. The only way to break the loop is artificial latency. You must introduce a mandatory 15-minute delay before responding to any internal trigger. Do not announce this policy to your team. Do not put an away message up on your profile. Simply execute the friction. This mechanical delay does two things simultaneously. First, it retrains your manager's baseline expectations. You become known as highly reliable, but not immediately accessible. You sever the dopamine reward pathway they experience when they dump their anxiety onto your screen. Second, and far more importantly, it gives your nervous system the required buffer to process the artificial threat. You transition from a reactive biological node back into an observing human being. You are taking back the physical space between the stimulus and the response. The first week you deploy this countermeasure, expect severe friction. The behavioral program is deeply entrenched, and your sudden refusal to provide instant micro-compliance will trigger a temporary escalation in tactics. Your manager might escalate a simple question to an unscheduled phone call. Let it go to voicemail. Listen to the message, wait your mandatory 15 minutes, and reply with a calm, text-based solution. You are teaching the extraction loop that its old inputs no longer yield the same accelerated outputs. You cannot negotiate boundaries using the very communication channels designed to obliterate them. A polite request for uninterrupted work time will be ignored. You can only enforce boundaries through mechanical, predictable latency. Your deliberate silence is the iron wedge that physically breaks the gears of the machinery. Once you stabilize your cognitive baseline, you will start seeing the entire office architecture differently. You will sit in a Tuesday all-hands meeting, watching the frantic pacing of middle management, and you will finally recognize it for exactly what it is. You will see a room full of people trapped in an operant conditioning cycle, actively rewarding each other for their own systemic exploitation. The illusion of the grind shatters the moment you stop running on its wheel. You are not a processor designed to handle infinite concurrent threads. You are flesh, blood, and bone. The goal of this protocol is not to win the corporate game or climb their broken ladder. The goal is to quietly exit the extraction loop while continuing to collect your paycheck intact. Start tomorrow morning at 9. Pick one specific communication channel, your email inbox, your Slack client, your Teams interface, and firmly establish your 15-minute latency rule. Hold the line against the pen. When your chest tightens at the sight of the first red notification dot, step away from the keyboard, pour a glass of water, stare at the wall, and watch the seconds tick down. This is your first tactical step toward reclaiming your cognitive sovereignty from a system built to drain it. We are documenting every phase of this behavioral program, and we are distributing the countermeasures as fast as we can accurately map them out. Subscribe to this channel. The Containment Field brief updates weekly. Arm yourself, hold your friction, and we will see you on the outside.